Nu fue que se encaró desde un labrazo, ros lo sang de nostro raso, rosa lo matin es lo soleil, la rabio e la fatigo a vendigner.
The situation of Frisian in the Netherlands is, Fries is actually the official second language of the Netherlands. It's acknowledged and it's supported also by the national government, money-wise. Of course, the province of Friesland is giving a lot of attention to the language. There's a there's like a regional TV station, a radio station. There are 2 newspapers who do publish a lot in the Frisian language. Not everything, but they do quotes, interviews in Fries. And in schools, more and more, there is lessons, actually. And something that quite recently also became the norm is, for example, in the kindergarten, for the very young children, the child care, there's usually one person speaking Dutch and one person speaking Fries. Everybody in the Netherlands is aware of Friesland, of the Frisian language. There's been like a number 1 hit on the radio, in Fries. It's already more than 20 years ago, but people know of the language. And every now and then, even in Parliament, there are Fries-speaking members of Parliament who sometimes speak Fries in Parliament. For me, the first time, like the moment I started writing a song in Frisian was in 2011. My mother had passed away, and I wanted to express myself. I'm a musician, so obviously music is the way to do it. Before I was always singing in English, writing songs in English, but that made no sense at all, since it was not the language of my mother, not the language that we always communicated in, and it didn't feel right. What felt right is writing in Fries. So I started writing words that became lyrics for a song, and that's how the first song came about. And it was like, for me, it felt like there was a room in my head, somewhere in my brain, that a door opened to a room that I didn't know it existed. I walked in there and I found out that there was a place where I could also make music, a different music from what I made before, different from the English songs that I made that were more about how I see the world, maybe more politically philosophical. But now I had this experience with losing someone who was very near, like losing my mother. And for me, it became the urge to make a different music with different words in a different language, with a different sound also. And so more songs came, and I started also playing them live. I made 2 albums, and that's how it grew. The way a language works, and especially being surrounded by more than just one language, I think it makes your life very rich. If I see it, I have 2 small children. We live in Amsterdam. Amsterdam is not Friesland, but I speak Frisian with them, and they learn Frisian. They learn to sing the children's songs in Frisian. And when they are at school, Amsterdam is a city with more than 150 nationalities. In the school classes of my children, basically everybody speaks more than one language. They're all multilingual. Either of course, they learn Dutch, they speak Dutch, But there is English, there is Turkish, Moroccan, there is Russian, Romanian, there is Italian. So my children tell me that they are very proud, actually, that they also have a second language, which is Frisian. So when in the school there is every day, every year there's one day when the children are allowed to have someone or to read a story in their other language. They bring a book in Fries, a children's book, and they read a story in the Frisian language. I think what I also see with my children, for example, is they learn Dutch. So my wife, she speaks Dutch. I speak Frisian. Immediately, almost from day one, they see that there is not one way of saying something. There is not one way of putting something. So actually, this goes against absolutism. So as a young child, also I already learned that there are different ways to say something, to deal with it, to experience it, to try to give words to your feelings, and all these things. You immediately have this experience of there are more ways of to go around and to deal with something. So your brain actually is working in more different ways. You learn, and it makes your brain in a way more flexible. It's against stiffness. It's against absolutism, and only that already is a very huge big reason for having children learning their local languages next to other languages. ZEA started in 1995, so that's almost 30 years ago. I just turned 21, and I was playing a lot of music, but I wanted to start my own band. And there were some friends from school, and I asked them to join me, so we started a band. I was writing my own songs. We were playing these songs, trying to find concerts, learning while we were going and making our music. That kind of developed. I kept writing songs. At some point, it became a bit more focused. Like I was working with electronics. ZEA became a duo. I was on tour a lot. We were on tour a lot, also in Russia. The guy who was doing the electronics fell in love with a drummer from Russia. So at one of those tours, I left him there. He got married. He became a father. And from that point on, I decided, okay, then now ZEA is my solo project. And ZEA is a word of 3 letters, ZEA. And I thought that sounds nice. And I don't think it means anything. It just sounds nice. Maybe, and then I thought, oh yeah, it could be like the female version of Zeus, the Greek god, but anyway, I thought this word doesn't mean anything. Then later, my name became like the name ZEA. People got to know it, and then people started writing me mostly from countries in South America, because there are people who have the name ZEA as a family name, and they were looking for their roots in Europe, and they thought maybe I am, like family are connected somehow. And then it turned out that ZEA is actually a Greek word for maize, corn. So I found out all these things, and I thought, oh, this is getting really nice. I just take it all as part of me, but ZEA is also, for me, the music. So ZEA is the music that I make, and that music can go in many different directions. And it stands for that. And whoever who wants to contribute a meaning, please feel free. The way I write songs, it can start in different ways. Like, for example, I have a song called Morgen gaan ik deur. It means tomorrow I will die. And it's like a combination of a very good friend who called me and said that he was almost like about to pass away. And of course, that kind of telephone conversation gets in my head, gets in my heart. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking like, so maybe he will die tomorrow. And that in Frisian is morgen gaan ik deur. But for me, this sentence, morgen gaan ik deur, has a melody in itself. Morgen gaan ik deur. So when I hear that melody in my head, and I take my guitar and I sit down, it's the beginning of a song. And then I say, morgen gaan ik deur, dan ben ik er net meer. So tomorrow I will die, then I'm not on this world anymore. And then I take it from there. Somehow the other words, the storylines come because it's really directly connected to actually losing someone or going to lose someone. But then I also turn it around because the conversation had more elements, and I turn it into a song that's also about tomorrow I will die, but tomorrow it will always be the next day. So now I am alive. So in a way, if we stick to the fact that it will be tomorrow that you will die, you will not die. So in this way, I make the song elastic. So time in music can be elastic. So I want to celebrate life in the song and just keep the passing away, the death, pushing it to tomorrow and make life through music elastic. So that's some example of one of my songs, how it comes about. When I started to study anthropology, I was just 18 years old. I was very politically active. I was an anarchist, like really going to demonstrations, but I'd never been outside of Friesland, not outside of the Netherlands, basically. And I went to study something that was about different cultures in the world. I went to study something that I thought, I want to learn alternatives for a Western capitalist society. And so I want to study this cultural anthropology to find out, to learn from all the cultures in the world, what is an alternative for what I think has gone off the rails in the Western world. But I realized I was the youngest student, that all the other students had traveled the world, seen a lot, and that was their reason to go and study anthropology and research cultures. So after a year of studies, I thought, I need to go somewhere. And I went to Kenya. And I traveled to Kenya, and there I did some projects. I met a lot of people. I traveled. I learned that all these ideas that I had about the world and about poverty, for example, and about people in certain countries, in certain situations, it wasn't true at all. For example, I thought in Africa, everybody, or in African country, in Kenya, people are poor, so they must feel terrible all day. Somehow, I thought I was 18, and I thought I did somehow in mind. There was an amazing community who just took me and taught me, and I was learning their language. They gave me a name from like a local name, and like these things, I was trying to give something back. I had a guitar, so I was making music with them. But most important thing is that I learned that all the ideas that I had about what the world would be like, actually, that they were not like that. So I thought I have to start from zero. I have to also study philosophy, because in philosophy we ask the questions, like the first questions, like why are we here? How can we do good? Like, these kind of fundamental questions. So, and studying philosophy became, when I went back to Amsterdam, I also studied philosophy and anthropology, and it gave me vocabulary of thinking about the world. It gave me vocabulary for my songs, for my ideas. That's one thing. It gave me a kind of poetry in a way. I mean, it's a scientific language sometimes, but because I read it in English and I come from another language, I can put that language, for example, and just take words and turn them around. So then I'm already playing with language, playing with another language. I've learned that by traveling with my music to many different countries, many different continents. Always there's exchange. Always the variation between people is a source of sometimes laughter, because you laugh about the differences between, you do it like this, nah, come on, no, we do it like this. It's, like this. It's a very simple, but you learn that the variation between people is actually a source of laughter, of humor, and not of fear. Not at all fear. While actually a lot of politicians these days, I mean, not only these days, it's from a long time, but politicians who use the variation between people as something you have to be afraid of. And I think we need to use any kind of source, including music, poetry, and writing, and festivals, and stories to tell the opposite. So by studying, by traveling, by making music, by the exchange, by meeting people, that's one very fundamental thing I've learned. That one simple thing is the variation between people is never a source of fear, never something to be afraid of. Always something to enjoy, to exchange, and to actually also laugh about. And because quite often there's a lot of humor in variation. Being here in Ostana is already very special. I got the invitation, I think maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. I knew about the festival actually from a very good friend, Tjeerd Branja. He's a poet from Friesland. And he told me about the festival. I met a singer who sings in Occitan, Aurelia is her name. She told me about the festival. This was about like 5-6 years ago. But anyway, they already told me about this amazing place in the mountains in Italy where there was this festival going on. So whenever you hear these kind of stories, two friends telling really great things about it, it's like you think like, wow, okay, well, that would be really nice to maybe one day end up there and see it, experience it, whatever. So then years later, Flavio sends me an email and says, Arnold, listen, we discovered your music. We see your lyrics, your poetry, and we want to invite you for the festival. So just personally, that's what lifts your heart. Like, wow. So I'm going to be there. I'm going to experience what I heard about. I'm going to have the view, the mountain. I'm going to have the food. I'm going to meet all those people. That's a gift. That's a really big gift. And that's a gift that we all have and give to each other. So it's what music and art can do, to really give and exchange. I also organize things in Amsterdam, and I know and I'm very aware of the fact that creating these kind of events where people meet each other, where there is exchange, is super important. And it's not in a hierarchy from top down. It's all in exchange. So sometimes I describe it as like we are all stations in a network, like in a metro network of art and music. We are all a station in different places. In Ostana, there's a station. In Amsterdam, there's a station. In Geneva, there's a station. In Milano, there's a station. There are people there doing things, making art, or doing other things like organizing. They are music fanatics, are book fanatics. They run a bookshop or a record label. And they are all about exchange. So you have your station, and like Ostana is a station. People now for 3 days are here, and there's a lot of exchange. And when it's finished, we all go to other stations. And then one day in my station in Amsterdam, I will be the one organizing something. I will be the one inviting other musicians, poets, and then the exchange will happen in Amsterdam. And will be the one who will try to think like, okay, how can I ever top the Italian food with some Dutch cuisine that I really have to figure it out, because it also, the exchange is not only the brain, it's also in the stomach. So these kind of things are super important. It's super important. I work with African musicians from Ghana, from Ethiopia. I invite them to come and tour in Europe. They invite me to come and play in Ghana. They are a station there, I'm a station here. I have a record label, I put their music out. This exchange is, we learn from each other. There's so much to learn from people who live in the north of Ghana, and they learn a lot from us. When they are on tour in Europe, they learn a lot of things too. So when governments decide to build the walls higher and higher, to make the bureaucracy more complicated, not to have fear for people who come from West Africa, to think they are exploiting us, to think like we shouldn't give them visas and we shouldn't be interested. In a way, they say like, we don't care about their culture, we don't care about other people, and we don't care about exchange. All our stations in this network have to fight that idea, that policy, and that kind of bureaucracy. And we have to keep doing it, and I think we will, because it's so strong. So you will always have that fire burning somehow. So yeah. Er is natuurlijk van alles wat ik je wil vertellen wil. Maar ik ben een muzikant. En dus ik kan een soort praten, maar wat ik het lauwste doe is natuurlijk jongen. Dus ik wil voor iedereen die dit shirt, wil ik een versje jongen in het Fries. En dat je wat moet wat waan als wij geen geld hebben. En dat gaat zo. So what I just said is I am a musician, I'm a singer. And I can talk a lot, but eventually the music is my medium. So actually I want to sing something for you. And I'll sing a song in Frisian. The song is called Wat moet wat waan als wij geen geld hebben? And it means, what should we do when we have no money? Oh, wat moet wij doen als wij geen geld hebben? Oh, mijn lief, wat moet wij dan doen? Rennen wij naar de stad voor een muntstuk of twee? En we zongen de zwaardig van u zo. En wat moet wij doen als er een band komt? O, mijn lief, wat moet wij dan doen? Ja, wij haar dan mooi en die mem en die huid. En we zongen de zorg van u zo. En wat moet wij doen als een van u ziek wordt? O, mijn lief, wat moet wij dan doen? Troost u mij u die nes, breng ik dijn uit in graf. En we zongen de zorg van u zo. En wat moet wij doen als de hemel hem stil houdt? O, mijn lief, wat moet wij dan doen? Jere wij het bazuin, wij op in het vuur. En we zongen de zorg van u zo. O, wat moet wij doen als wij geen geld hebben? O, mijn lief, wat moet wij dan doen? Rennen wij naar de stad voor een stuk of twee. En we zongen de zorg van u zo. En we zongen de zorg van u zo.
Elle était fort déshabillée et de grands arbres indiscrets aux vitres jetaient leurs feuillets malinement tout près, tout près.